All right, everybody, we're back. So now we're ready to put our elf in. Y'all, the wire ties that come on these, they're not even close to where I want them. And they're very hard to deal with, so I cut them off. So I'm going to grab a couple pipe cleaners here, and I'm going to decide where I want the elf to sit in my wreath. And I kind of want it to sit off to the side to give it more of a whimsical look. Plus, if you put it up and down, let me show you, it creates an up and down look for your wreath. And when it's round, we want it to, your eye to flow around. So I kind of like to set mine off to the side a little bit, like this, catty corner. So this is like pretty thick, but I want my belt to close up. So I just stab through all the layers on this elf. There's like a total of 6 layers of stuff going on here. And once you stab through it, it's kind of a bad idea. Don't let go. So be ready with your pipe cleaner to put everything in. I like using the pipe cleaners too for this because it makes it easier for me to secure my elf in and pull it tighter to my frame. Oh, I accidentally hit my mouse, y'all. Sorry about that. And then that way my elf legs don't go flopping around. Now I'm not really concerned about whether or not you can see the belt because the legs are so long. Now, I don't like leaving the legs just dangling. It gives the wreath absolutely no personality as far as I'm concerned. So I kind of like to pose the legs a little bit. I'm going to take a pipe cleaner to make sure they don't move, and I'm going to go really tight, and you're not going to see the pipe cleaner. And that's just to make sure the legs don't move. And then I pulled it back up to the top. Now I'm going to cut it off, and then I'm going to put a good bend in the knee there. And that's going to make sure that the elf leg does not move. And I'm going to bend the boot up a little bit because it's like a long foot, just to give it a little bit of curl. And then that way we've got a little bit of personality with the legs. So now that I got my legs all fixed up, let's come up and do the hat. Once again, it's got these wire ties. They're like useless as far as I'm concerned. And what I'm going to do once again is grab a couple of pipe cleaners. And I poked quite a bit of a hole to get a lot of fat of the felt, so I don't have to worry about the hole ripping. I'd say about a good inch at least. And if you're still afraid of the hole ripping, you can of course use hot glue after you get finished putting your pipe cleaners in. So I'm going to put the hat on so it looks like it's kind of on the sign part of it. And I am attaching this to the top part of the frame. Always, once I get something set to the wreath the way I want it, I double check by fixing my ribbons, because my ribbons are part of my design, the way that they lay and everything like that. So I always fix my ribbons, and then I double check how everything's sitting to make sure that I am happy with it. So now that we have the elf body on, we are ready to move on and make our bow. So this is a Bow Genius. You can pick it up at Walmart. And I'm just going to take a couple pipe cleaners and spin them together. And then set them down in there. These spool holders that I use came with my Pro Bow. So I don't want that much of a tail on this bow. The reason I don't want that much of a tail on this bow is because I don't want to cover up too much of this, where I'm going to place my bow. I also have a plan that I want to make sure my bow is basically about parallel with my sign so it doesn't cover up the wording. My elves are upside down, y'all. See how my elves are? I kind of want them to lay right in the bow, so I'm going to have to alter my plan here just a little bit. So I'm going to do part of this by hand. So what I'm going to do is I've got my tail here. I'm going to fold this under. And I'm going to lay this here because I'm measuring it as I go for my next loop. So what I'm going to do to keep all my tails going to sit, I'm going to just fold this back over. And that's going to make it so all my print is facing the right way. It's not twisted upside down. All right. So I want to break my colors up just a little bit. Actually, I think I want to go ahead and put the stripe in first. I'm doing this is because I don't want the stripe to be at the top of my bow. So as I go up, my loops are gradually getting smaller, typically about a half an inch to an inch in size. This is a really, really thick felt ribbon. And I mean thick. Just remember, if you use a thick ribbon, the shorter your loops are, the harder it is to fluff it. Typically in my bow, I try not to use all the ribbons that I used in my ribbon tails, so that my bow will stand out a separate from. But I want to use a few of them so that it coordinates with my wreath. However many ribbons you use, everything like that, that's to style and to taste. How you stack your ribbons, it's all going to be a personal preference as you learn how to make a bow. So I'm going to the right of the elf, and the reason I'm doing that, I'm going kind of like on top of the elf to the right. The reason I'm doing that is because this is where my greatest emptiest space is to fluff my bow. So I have this room so that I won't cover the words. Now I could put the bow on the other side, but the reason I'm putting it over here is because I have two very large elements that I want to add as well. And adding my bow over here is what's going to keep the balance. And because the legs are so long, I have to take some of that longness out so it's not so awkward. I always fluff my bow on my wreath, and the reason I like to do that is because if I fluff it before I put it on, then I've got to fluff it again. So it kind of skips a step. Plus, when I started making wreaths, there was no fluff box and all this other stuff. So I had to do something. So this is what I did. So I'm alternating between loop and tail, like a cherry bow. Notice I'm pulling my ribbons apart to make sure that they alternate nicely. So do you see how I have all these tails right here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I pull a loop that way. See how that took some of the longness off of the legs? And then just to make sure we can see the words on the side, don't be afraid to do this. We're going to cut this ribbon down and out of the way. All right. So the next thing that I want to add on to here is the peppermints. The peppermints that I got from Hobby Lobby last year. They've had them available every year now, so you might be able to find them. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the ribbons out if possible. If not, I'm going to cut them in as close as possible. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to get these sticks out. And then you can save those for another project if you need a floral pick for something. Just be careful pulling them out that you don't tear apart your lollipop. So I wanted to put these in for them to be kind of fun. So I'm going to kind of put them at an angle. And I accidentally just hooked the feet. An angle to each other. And if my bow covers it up a little bit, that's like not the end of the world. we're going to go that way with them. Okay, so the reason that I chose this way is because they're going to stand out better in this design. And there's kind of a gap right here in the ribbon also. So to attach them, we're going to get our hot glue gun out. And we're going to be very careful and poke a hole in the back right about here. The reason we want to be like really careful is because we don't want to go all the way through. I'm going to shoot a little bit of hot glue in there. So these are ultra lightweight. If they were heavier, we would have to do way more to get them attached. It just occurred to me the rim of my hat might have been in y'all's way. Sorry about that. So once again, I'm going to tie this in, and I'm hitting the very top of the frame. Look, that one pulled off, y'all. I lost the hole. There it is. There. We'll let that one cool down. And we'll go ahead and continue on knowing it's going to go right there. So to finish this wreath off, the last thing that I always look at is which is my dominant color and possibly which ribbon I would definitely like to have stand out a little bit more. Because believe me, y'all, there's always one ribbon that you would probably like to see more of in your wreath. So before I go and I put my finishing touches, I always fix my ribbon to see what's going on. What is not standing out the way that I wanted it to stand out. You know, I think that green is standing out really good, but it's standing out so much that we don't have enough of it. See where the 3 pieces are? So that would be the ribbon that I'm going to lean toward adding more of. I'm just going to pull these out. What I'm going to do to add more of this color is I'm going to cut 3 pieces 22 inches. And the reason I'm cutting them 22 inches is because that makes a really nice loop for a Jackie bow. So what you do is you round your ribbon up. I'm going to flip where it folds over to the bottom, find your middle point, then bring them together. Then I fold them up to double check, and then I just pinch it down. Fluff your loops up nicely. It's okay to cover your elements up a little bit. just kind of have them peeking out. So the last thing that I want to do is I want to make sure this ribbon that has nothing in it stays in its tie. And what I mean stays in its tie, it won't wilt forward. So I'm going to use some spirals again. And that's also going to give you more fullness to the top of your wreath. Because if you're not careful with your ribbon tails, they kind of droop forward. So they need a little something to help hold them from doing that. See how that's adding to the fullness of the wreath? And there you have it. A nice little Merry Christmas, y'all. Elf wreath, y'all. I really hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. I enjoyed doing it. Elves is like my most popular seller year after year after year after year. And they only get more fun as the ribbon gets better. Thank y'all so much for joining me. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye, y'all.